Today we're with Aaron Zelman from Willed, and we're talking all things power of attorney. So Aaron, maybe as a starting point, we can just kick off and you can tell everyone, what is a power of attorney document?
Absolutely. So power of attorney documents are simply a legal device that will give other people the power to make decisions for a person or for you when you can't. And that can relate to financial matters, medical matters, even just lifestyle matters. And it's a really important document that is often written with a will, but it's separate from a will. And there's a lot of confusion often whether it's included in a will or not, but it's a separate document.
Yep. So what are some scenarios whereby a power of attorney document, becomes really important?
Well, a lot of it relates to health, and the big word here is capacity. So day to day, we have capacity, we can do things for ourselves. In some very simple scenarios, we just can't do something for ourselves because we're not there. We might be going overseas, for example. We need someone to do something in our name. But in a common planning ahead scenario, also as we get older in life, we're faced with more challenges to our health. So the scenarios will be around getting too sick to be able to look after ourselves in these matters or make decisions. And that's where it's really important. These things can come on quite suddenly, like in an example, if you had an accident or had a sudden illness, or they can be just from getting older or degenerative illnesses as well, where we just lose our ability to function over time. So getting things in place prevents a big issue down the line.
So do people always have a power of attorney in association with a will? Like, how do those two things, the will and the power of attorney document, how do they interface or how do they work together?
Sure. So people may not do the two together. It's common that if you're doing powers of attorney, or also called enduring powers of attorney or EPA, generally when you're doing those, it's going to be in conjunction with writing a will. But they are standalone, separate things. You can have a will in place and then need to add it, which you may not have done it at the time. Or you might just not even want to write a will for some reason, but you want to get these documents in place. But just think of one as relating to what happens when you die, and one is really why you're still alive, but just can't make decisions for yourself. So there's similar sort of thought processes. Who's responsible? What powers do they have? But they're not the same thing. They're a different context that they apply in.
It makes it really clear, I think, the will for what happens if you die and the power of attorney for you're still alive, but it's, the decision-making processes are not easy or something. That makes it really, really clear. So I guess then I can probably, guess the answer in terms of when it's too late to make a power of attorney document. So I guess then the timing of that becomes super important as well.
It is, and that is a common thing. You can't write a will if you don't have capacity. And that does apply to writing these power of attorney or enduring power of attorney documents. If you've lost capacity, you can't state who will have those powers once you lose capacity. It's too late at that point. As I said, sometimes these things happen suddenly, so it's just too late. If it's something more unfolding over time, it can be difficult. Like if a person's developing dementia, for example, at that point, it calls into question, did they have capacity or not? So it really is best to just do it well ahead of time if possible.
That's super advice in terms of don't leave it until you think that there's an issue, but just make sure that you've really got something in place to look after yourself. So what are some common mistakes or myths when people think about the power of attorney?
Yeah, well, the biggest one actually just goes in assuming that it's part of a will. People get confused about that all the time, that they think, oh, I've got a power of attorney and therefore that's part of a will and vice versa. That's probably the biggest mistake. Generally, not ensuring that it's up to date, so that the person that you want to have these powers are still able and they're still desirable for you to act in that capacity. So, a set and forget attitude can be a problem. So just knowing what you've put in place, where to find it, would be really important, and having those people be aware. If let's say you want someone to make decisions for you, you need to prepare them. They need to be aware of it and ideally have signed acceptance of it. And let's say it is a financial matter, giving them some information as to what finances do they need to manage, where are your bank account details or other important information that they need. So just not being thorough enough in that preparation process is a big mistake that people do make.
Do you have any tips? You just touched on a really interesting point, I think, around not doing set and forget with these things. And I think it's a really interesting sort of thing, because I guess quite often we choose our friends to be, our executors and things like that. But of course, we're all aging together and we're all experiencing life, at the same time, and coming into health issues and things. So it is really, it is something really important. And I think you and I, we talked about that when we were talking about wills, in terms of like choosing the right people. Are there any tips that you have around who you would choose, to witness or give your power of attorney to, or in that regard? What are your thoughts on that?
Of course. So the underlying question here is trust. Is this a trustworthy person? Do they have the smarts or the abilities to do what you need them to do? Excuse me. And just thinking about their situation in life. So you wouldn't typically choose someone who themselves is very unwell, perhaps towards the end of their life. It would be not a wise choice if you have an option. So it would be someone a bit younger if possible. That would be really quite important. But it, again, comes down to trust, character, and do they have a desire as well? And these things change, as I mentioned. So you can also change who your attorney is or who you've appointed. You can change the rules around it, but you need to go and redo it at the time, of course.
Now, that's my last question. If you need to change or update it, what happens, or what do you need to do? We discussed that when we were discussing wills, and, the process of updating a will, and making sure that you I guess, cross the T's and dot the I's, and don't leave a problem behind for your family. So what's the situation when it comes to the power of attorney document?
Sure. So every state actually will have a different process as to how you can establish new attorney documents and whether they're to be registered. If you're using the will platform, for example, we provide the relevant instructions for that individual and based on their state. But essentially, it is rewriting the document and stating who that a new person is, following that process.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. I think it's such an important topic. I know we talked about wills previously and how important it is to make sure that you've got your will in place. And believe it or not, since I spoke to you last, my husband and I have updated our will, and we've even dragged my brother in on the process to make sure his will's up to date. So, it is something that I think that, we all just need that little reminder every now and then. And I think that's the same with people having a power of attorney document in place as well.
Wendy, I'm sure you'll agree. It's a good feeling once you've done it or updated it. You just tick it off and you get peace of mind with it. People really do enjoy these things, getting them done.
Yes, it is. It's peace of mind. Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much for your time today. As always, you've been a fantastic source of information for our community.
My pleasure. Thank you.